abortion, and on several other issues, he kept saying, well, I'm a New Yorker. I grew up in New York. He specifically said, I didn't say this, he said this. He said, my values are a little bit different, just a little bit different than people in Iowa. He says that in that interview.
So it seemed like Senator Cruz came ready to fight on the birther issue.
We came prepared.
So was this an opportunity? Did he put this to rest, or I mean, he just kind of kept it
on
alive?
The birther issue?
Yeah. I mean,
I thought with the American people he put it to rest. Maybe with Donald Trump might not think it's to rest. He should put it to rest. It's not a strategic decision because it hasn't moved a single number. So he can persist in it, but all of our numbers show it hasn't worked at all. So it's not a strategic decision. It seems like an emotional reaction, but you'd have to ask him that.
This finally punctured the bromance. Do you see this getting even nastier between Cruz and Trump?
It wasn't nasty. I think it just was a contrast, right?
Do you see it
getting more intense?
I don't think so. I think they respect and admire each other. So, this is part of the campaign where people want to know, so this is what you stand for. Now tell us how you're different. Now we're in part of the campaign. This is how we're different.
I saw a lot of respect and admiration.
I know you all wanted it like 6 months ago, but now we're here and we're doing differences.
So if you want to be consistent, though, and you say that life begins at conception, then wouldn't where the baby is conceived have something to do with the citizenship of the baby? Like if parents had sex in America, then that should be an American child, right?
Yeah, that's if can I follow this logic again?
Yeah, so if parents have sex in America and life begins at conception, then isn't that an American child?
It is certainly a child.
Yes.
Right, but it is where it's based on the parents, the citizenship of the parents.
But life begins at conception, right?
Right.
So if a mom and a dad, bang on a weekend in the Upper Peninsula, that should count, right? It shouldn't matter if they're Canadian or not.
They might count for you.
Did you guys talk about getting a declaratory judgment on the birth certificate issue just to get it out of the way? Or is that ruled out?
I don't think there's any standing or need, or it's not necessary to get a declaratory judgment. In 1790, the first Congress, many of whom were contemporaries of the founders or not founders themselves, passed a law that defined what natural-born citizenship meant, and it meant being born to an American citizen, which Cruz was, and so hopefully that's the last time I'll have to explain that, because I think everybody got it now.
Are we at the point now, you mentioned we're now at the point in the campaign where contrasts are starting to be drawn.
Yeah.
Will we see Senator Cruz mentioning some contrasts on his own, or are these going to only be brought up in response to Donald Trump if he brings them up?
Well, look, you will all ask questions and to bring up contrasts, and where we differ with others, that we're willing to bring those things up.
And not wait for someone else to mention them. You may offensively bring them up, be the first to bring them up.
I don't know if offensively, but part of our campaign is telling about what our positions are and juxtaposing those against what the positions of other candidates are. Now, you may draw those conclusions, and we may draw those conclusions, but ultimately the voters got to decide what are the differences, so we will point out those differences.
I mean, is the senator going to make the point that the Republican Party under a President Donald Trump, or the country under a President Donald Trump, would be a disturbing place, a scary place, a place that people don't want to be in?
No, what he said is that anybody on that stage would be better than Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders. So I think he'd be fine with that.
There was a lawsuit filed, I guess, today.
Yeah, I heard that.
What do you make of the lawsuit?
I mean, I don't think there'll be any standing for the lawsuit.
It's clear you're not worried about Lawrence Tribe bringing in the birther issue, considering his politics. But what
Lawrence Tribe also told the New York Times that he personally believes that Senator Cruz is eligible.
But beyond Lawrence Tribe, how about someone like Ann Coulter, who's been pushing the issue, saying she now believes that Senator Cruz is ineligible, someone who, like a conservative like her? Is that worrisome from a place like Iowa, that maybe conservatives would listen to someone like Ann Coulter?
I think she's the only one, and Ann Coulter has said a lot of things that, she's said a lot of bizarre things. So I can't answer or speak for Ann Coulter.
Can you just describe how we got to not only tonight, but Tuesday in Iowa, as far as just, it seems like Cruz just got increasingly fed up with what you describe as the silliness of the birther issue. Is that true?
I don't know that he got fed up. I think he had a smile on his face the entire time he was dealing with that topic. So I think it was amusing. It was mostly amusing because it didn't move any numbers and no one believed it. Because once people were told he was born to an American mother who was living in Canada because of a job. And everybody says, oh, got it. And they just checked it off and moved the other way. In fact, we went to 26 counties in Iowa. I think you were at some of those, right? Yeah. And we got that question from the thousands of voters we saw one time. They weren't concerned.
I'm sorry, I know you feel like you must have, talked about this to pieces already, but I came in a little bit late here, so just to go back, New York values.
Right.
I mean, the issue of, did you think that it was fair for Trump to bring up the 9/11 example, or is that
well, what he didn't want me to bring up was that in New York has a different attitude about the life issue than most Iowans.
Right,
They have a different issue about marriage than most Iowans. They have different concerns. They work in different jobs, right? So one works in a farm, works for a city. They send different people to Congress. They have different policies. If in Texas you can carry a firearm openly, in New York if you have a firearm you will be arrested and put in jail. Those are different values.
But when the senator comes to New York and
I don't know if they'll arrest you, but I don't think you're supposed to drink wine in New York.
well, I mean, I'm sorry with that. But I mean, if the senator is in New York and he raises money from people, I mean, if he raises money from,
we actually don't raise a lot of money
from people who are gay, I mean, maybe that, or have different views on, marriage. I mean, does that open you up to criticism?
No, they would be signing up to Senator Cruz. We don't sign up to donors; they sign up to us.
Right, but I mean, if he accepts their money, if he appears with them and then says, well, but
people give money for all. People give money for. We've had money given to us from people you might not expect would give us money, but they obviously want us to win. So
So there's no conflict between that and.
No, we haven't changed. None of our opinions and what we would do is very clear to them when they give the money. So.
Rick, I'm sure you got this before, but if you can go through a little bit of unpacking how the Trump-Cruz détente seems to have eroded in terms of, do you think that this, in this new sort of more angry state of the campaign that...
What did you describe it as? More what?
More angry stage.
Who's angry?
Seems, the candidates...
I didn't see anybody angry.
Is somebody angry?
No, I didn't. I really didn't. I saw Cruz mostly smiling through the whole thing.
More contentious?
No, you point out, look, every campaign comes to a point when you have to make a contrast with other candidates. That's just a natural part.
Were you concerned that not firing back at those attacks would have made Senator seem weak, or?
No, not at all. What happened? If you fire back from a point of weakness, you won't do very well. I think Rick Perry did that, so he kind of skipped through all the steps you want to get to. You start out with name recognition, right? That's the first thing. Then you want to make sure people know who you are and what your values are. Then you talked about the issues that you would work on, and then the final phase of the campaign is, how are you different from everybody else? We've arrived at that stage. Nobody should be surprised. People want to know how you're different, and voters actually find it positive because it helps them make a decision. So there's clarity between statements. I would say the biggest difference between Cruz and Trump is I know what Ted Cruz's guiding principles are. I think most of the voters that we've come in contact with who have seen and met him, the thousands of people that we go campaigning to meet, they have a sense of what his guiding principles are and how he would make decisions on future unforeseen events that could be critical to the country. And I don't think they have that sense about Donald Trump.
And with the Rubio exchange as well, is that the same sort of contrast that you're trying to make?
I heard a last gasp of the campaign somewhere when he took a breath between that litany of falsehoods.
Oh, come on.
Wait, keep going on that. Go more on that point. Right? What you're saying
He's
that he's
just
11.
He just listed off 11 falsehoods. So look, I understand he's down in the polls.
The senator wasn't a great favorite of PPA.
He's beaten. He never said. He said he's in support of free trade. He never talked about being in favor of TPA. So that's just objectively false. He never said I'm for TPA. He said I like the idea of trade. I like the idea of free trade. But what I don't like is a free trade deal that's negotiated by Barack Obama because I don't trust what's in it.
On the.
Two or three.
Sorry, what was I going to ask?
Wait, you're saying Rubio's finished? He's over? Game over? Is that?
He's getting beat by Kasich in New Hampshire. So if he gets beat by Kasich in New Hampshire, what's his path forward?
Asked him to respond to the Trump attack.
When did you start thinking about using the New York line as a line of contrast? Because you mentioned it to me in a story last week. You mentioned that the New York media.
Oh, New York's always on my mind. I love New York. Some of the greatest food in the world, one of the greatest entertainment. You know, the majority of the news media is there, and you know. So.
Are you surprised that the loan thing went unscathed?
No, it was very clear to understand that everything in the loan had been disclosed previously. It wasn't disclosed in the FEC. We recognize that, and now we've sent a letter to the FEC clarifying exactly what happened, and we'll wait for their guidance on how to, if they need us to amend it.
What do you think the issue is? So,